Atlus has been knocking it out of the park this year with its incredible JRPG releases, and big thanks to Sega and Atlus West for allowing me to play the game early. Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance is yet another one of those home run titles added to its impressive repertoire. While the Persona franchise may be dominating the discourse recently, for those who have known its parent franchise, Shin Megami Tensei, over the years, I'm pleased to say that the brand new Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance is without a doubt the most content-rich, accessible, and enjoyable entry in this long-running franchise to date. No longer solely shackled to the Nintendo Switch, Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance finds itself on nearly every platform under the sun now, with tons of insane upgrades that give even the extended Persona re-releases like Persona 4 Golden and Persona 5 Royal a run for their money. For all you Persona fans out there that have yet to give the Shin Megami Tensei franchise a shot, there is no better time than now to play the most polished, complete, accessible, and enjoyable entry in the series, as Atlus makes clear strides to put the SMT franchise into the hands of more players. Now, before we dive into everything that makes SMT5 Vengeance so great, we've got to congratulate Brian M. as the winner of the Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance Digital Deluxe Edition giveaway. It seems Brian bested the gods of chaos and aligned with the gods of luck on this one, but just want to say thank you all for participating in this giveaway, and for those still itching for more of Atlus's JRPG greatness in another giveaway, here's your ticket to participate in the Metaphor ReFantazio Digital Anniversary Edition giveaway. You can find all that information linked in the description. And with that, let's get into the greatness that is the newest SMT game, Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance. Like Persona 4 Golden and Persona 5 Royal are their extended re-releases over their original numbered counterparts, so too is Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance to SMT 5. Except here, the enhancements and additions are so incredibly noticeable that Vengeance almost comes across as a downright enhanced remake at times. If you've played SMT5 before, you know the game was quite pleasing to look at, even for a Switch-only title. The environments were absolutely massive, the animations were solid, and the combat, especially the epic, larger-than-life bosses, were impressive to see on a hybrid device like the Switch console, but even then, the game would stutter quite a bit and made you really think what this game truly could look like if it were on other platforms. Well, I'm pleased to say that not only is Vengeance on the Switch like the OG SMT5, but this enhanced re-release is also available on Steam, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X and S. And with that availability on other platforms, you can really see this game shine visually. The vast desert wastes of Dot and the crumbling ruins of this game world really come to life here, and with the performance of the game now running at a buttery smooth 60 FPS on the current generation of hardware, we've never seen SMT look this good. But other than the obvious visual enhancements done to this 2021 game, we need to catch you all up to speed with the storyline here, as it is here in the game's narrative where we see easily the largest addition to the core SMT5 experience, and that comes in the form of the alternate Vengeance plotline. Without getting too deep into the story here, just know that this game's story takes its time to develop and makes sure to reveal just enough for the player to be interested in the mystery that ensues around you. The game takes a few hours to really get you up to speed, but once you've found your footing in place in the expansive world of SMT5, the narrative becomes incredibly interesting. This is the basic premise. You play as a high school student attending school in Tokyo, where, after a day of studies, you find yourself walking home with a group of fellow students as a precautionary measure in the way of a buddy system, after the city issues an alert of alarming activity happening within the area. As the city enters a state of unease due to various murder incidents sprouting up throughout the urban landscape, we find ourselves linked up with acquaintances to find our way back to the student dorm. But guess what? We end up wandering after a couple of students trekking through a tunnel where literal hell transpires before our eyes, transporting us to another world called the Netherworld, or Dot as it's called. We awake in a new world, a new Tokyo, where various landmarks remind us of the city that once was, where the once great city is now blanketed in shimmering golden sands overrun by hostile demons. Before these demons claim our protagonist's life, a divine savior emerges from within the confines of reality. A man named Aogami, and under the pretense that our protagonist's life could end at any moment due to the demons, fuses with our character to become a heightened being, a Nahobina. With this new power, we traverse through a ravaged Tokyo, coming across remnants of the world that once was as we knew it, from locations to people we've met at high school and beyond, as we navigate a world of angels versus demons, order versus chaos. Now, the original SMT5 had us go through the standard storyline that generally played out a specific way, with some slight story variations toward the end of the game leading to different endings. But unique to SMT5 Vengeance, we have the biggest addition to this re-release in the new Vengeance storyline, identified as the Canon of Vengeance. Very early on in the game, players are confronted with a choice, choosing between two options that cause the game to play out quite differently, with the game explicitly informing the player of the two story options in this game, with Canon of Creation representing the original SMT5 storyline and the Canon of Vengeance representing the brand new storyline unique to this game. While these two paths start out quite similarly, they start to greatly deviate from each other towards the middle and especially near the endpoints, as new central characters, a massive new location in Shinjuku Ward, and Shakan, the new dungeon, punctuate some of the major new changes here in the Vengeance pathline. Not to mention, a number of new endings have been added to coincide with this drastically different story path. While the Persona series' other extended re-releases like Persona 4 Golden and Persona 5 Royal extend their games generally at the very end of their respective storylines by adding a new semester that adds 15 to 30 hours of gameplay, the new storyline added here in SMT5 Vengeance is allocated entirely to a different story path that is selected at the start of the game, with both stories generally playing out quite similarly until close to the halfway point. You won't start to see the new story developments, areas, and dungeons unique to the Canon of Vengeance until around the 30-hour mark, so just know that before going into the game. Regardless of what path you end up choosing, players who have already played SMT5 before will be thrilled to know that over 50 huge enhancements have been made to the game, making this version feel almost like an entirely new game. At the same time, brand new players to Shin Megami Tensei 5 will be happy to know that the new features introduced here make this entry in the series, a series renowned for its hardcore difficulty, by far the most approachable and accessible one yet in the series' 32-year history. It's worth noting that all these changes we're about to go through pertain to both storylines of the game and are not solely tied to the Canon of Vengeance storyline, introduced in Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance. Let's get into some of these biggest changes and enhancements in Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance that makes this game feel largely like an entirely new game. This is by no means an extensive and complete list, but rather serves as a list that I think really establishes the strengths SMT5 Vengeance has over the original release. Other than the aforementioned Canon of Vengeance storyline that adds new areas, characters, dungeons, endings, and more to the core game, new guest characters can now accompany the protagonist through key parts of the game, like Yoko Hiromine, who is introduced right at the start of the game, adding yet another component to the game's story. So in addition to Yoko, you can now have these allies playable in your battle party, adding an additional layer of strategy and personality to your team as you conquer the Netherworld. These guest members often strike conversations with the player throughout the game, and their time spent in battles translates to learning more about these characters via a new mechanic in the game known as Demon Haunts. Accessible via these fonts here in the game, Demon Haunts allow players to bond more closely with their demons that they've collected throughout the game, along with Aogami, allowing you to further spec your protagonist with stat gains, along with enhancing your relationships with your human allies. Enhancing your bonds with these beings through battle and through gifting them gifts often leads to acquiring new skills, stat boosts, items, and even provides players with more character development, further fleshing out the game's narrative while also enhancing the game's combat-heavy elements. Speaking of combat, this is also another key pillar that distinguishes Shin Megami Tensei from the Persona series, with SMT focusing much more on demon collecting and grinding to get through the game's more demanding boss encounters. Introduced in SMT5 Vengeance are brand new innate skills for your demons, producing passive buffs and abilities that have lasting effects on your battle party should they be part of your active battle team. Some of these innate skills vary from boosting elemental damage inflicted on enemies to providing greater resistances to status ailments, etc. Introduced in the OG Shin Megami Tensei 5 were the Magatsuhi skills that could be initiated once the red Magatsuhi bar in the top right of the screen completely filled, allowing players to buff their party with a variety of skills for a turn or two to help even the playing field. In addition to these skills returning, group Magatsuhi skills have been introduced to Vengeance and can be activated when certain conditions have been met between your demons in battle, resulting in devastating attacks, healing, and support skills. These group skills, coupled with innate skills, adds an additional layer of accessibility to the game that gives you, the player, more options when trying to overcome the game's challenges, and these features are just the tip of the iceberg here. SMT is known to feature some pretty punishing boss fights, and grinding has been long associated with the franchise ever since the very first game back in 1992. Introduced here in Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance, you have an auto battle system, allowing players to quickly speed through fights if the player so chooses, by giving players the option to use auto attack, which prioritizes physical attacks, and auto skill, which prioritizes the utilization of skills to target enemy weaknesses. When going against foes that are at a higher level, damage sustained from these foes has been changed to be more moderate, making it generally easier to take down higher leveled opponents. It is now easier to gain more experience points in Vengeance, as consecutive encounters have been added to the game, where if the player were to engage with an enemy on the field very close to other enemies, a consecutive battle would take place after the player survives the first encounter, rewarding the player with more Maka, this game's money equivalent, and EXP. Demons in the Shin Megami Tensei series are like how Personas are to the Persona franchise, and acquiring demons, like in Persona, is really what elevates your tactics here, and the various fusions on offer can greatly enhance your battle party. Acquiring these demons through conversations, similar to how you may remember them in Persona 5, has been enhanced here in Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance, with new negotiation options being added here, like quizzes and riddles. Demons will also more often beg for mercy during battles as well. More fusion options have also been added to the game, like the Dyad Compendium fusion, allowing you to combine a demon in your possession with a demon from your compendium, resulting in a variety of brand new demons introduced here in Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance. In fact, over 40 new demons have been introduced to this version of the game, resulting in over 270 total demons in Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance. That's an insane number of demons there, so for all those completionists out there, you'll be happy to know that you've got your work cut out for you. Because combat can be quite challenging here in SMT, perhaps the biggest game changer of a feature in this game is without a doubt the Save Anywhere feature, where you can literally save anywhere where you can maneuver your character in the field. That means you no longer have to reach a font to save your progress. Want to grind out a strong foe without having to trek all the way from a font to reach a specific demon? No worries. Simply just save in front of the demon, battle it, and load up the save if things go south, or proceed as planned, since having this peace of mind greatly alleviates much of the tension and pressure that some players of SMT have had over the years. Absolutely killer feature right there, and while you may think that makes the game easier and whatnot, just know that there are incredible challenges in this game if you're willing to tackle them. The new Godborn difficulty mode is accessible after completing the game, leveling up all enemy demons to level 150, and the virtual trainer mode allows you to battle bosses from the game that progressively gets harder and harder throughout the mode. There are so many additional enhancements here that I could put more emphasis on, like additional subquests being added, raising the party level cap to 150, new traversal methods that expand the game world like the Magatsuhi rails and more, but just know that Atlus went above and beyond to make sure that this game was as content rich as possible without taking away the identity of a Shin Megami Tensei game. The series' staple apocalyptic storylines, demon hunting, and strategic battles shine here in every way that they always have, all while giving players more options to engage with these elements, creating ultimately the most refined version of Shin Megami Tensei that we've seen yet. It's clear that Atlus is trying to draw more attention to this legendary franchise, and hopefully fans of Persona and other JRPGs will try this one out. There's really no compromise here. It took the elements of the already excellent Shin Megami Tensei 5 and elevated nearly every aspect. It added numerous layers on top of them, included a brand new beefy storyline for players to invest their time in, extended the replayability by increasing the level cap, introduced more demons, dungeons, and more, resulting in, without a doubt, the most content, feature-rich Shin Megami Tensei game to date. I can't wait to see what the future holds for this franchise, and considering the plethora of enhancements included here in this re-release, the next Shin Megami Tensei game is likely going to be even more epic. Alright, there is clearly a lot of game to Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance, but let me know what you think about this game in the comments below and if you're interested in picking it up. It gets my full recommendation and is a solid JRPG to hold you over as we eagerly await Metaphor, ReFantazio, and Persona 6. And speaking of Persona 6, go ahead and check this video out going over absolutely everything we think we know about the game. Thank you all for your awesome support, and I look forward to seeing you all real soon in the next one.